me, Mr. Amir Salah. Today we are going to complete our curriculum lessons online. I hope you enjoy with me and let's start.
Hello everybody, how are you? Today we are going to speak about lesson 2 in unit 3. Lesson 2, it's talk about types and properties of the soil. But in the beginning I have a question. I want to ask you, what are the types of the soil? Do you have any idea about that? What are the types of the soil? We have 3 types of the soil. Okay, the first one, sand soil. Second one, silt, and the third is clay soil. Now we are going to know the difference between all of them. What the difference between all the types of the soil. In the beginning, the sand soil. What is the sand soil? The sand soil, it is the soil which mainly composed of what? Sand particles and small amount of clay and silt, and rarely contain humus. One more time. What's the component of the silt or sand soil? The sand soil, it composed of the mainly composed of the sand soil is the sand particles, and also it contains, as we said, a small amount of clay and silt. And the most important point, that the sand soil contains a rarely amount of humus. That is the first one, sand soil. What about the silt soil? Silt soil, it is composed of a mixture of equal amount of gravel, sand, clay, and silt. But it contains more amount of humus. Now, we know the difference between sand soil and the silt soil. Sand soil, it contains a rarely amount of humus, but the silt soil contains more humus. Let's go to the third type of the soil. It is the clay soil. Clay soil, it is the soil which is composed mainly of clay and silt, and also contains small amount of sand and humus. Let's know the difference between all of them. The sand composed of sand particles. Who can answer me now? Silt, yes, you're right. It's a mixture. Mixture of what? Who can answer? Yes, gravel, sand, clay, and silt. All of you right. The third one, clay, yes, it's composed mainly of clay and silt. According the amount of humus, we can observe that the sand soil contains rarely amount of humus, but the silt, it is the best one. It contains more humus. The clay, it contains a small amount of humus. So the best soil for cultivation, what do you think? Who can tell me? What do you think? Which one of them it is the best soil for cultivation? How can I answer? Yes, you're right. Silt soil. Because why? Why it's the best soil for cultivation? Yes, right. Because it contains more humus. Okay. The difference between all of them. We have sand, clay, and silt. As we said before, the component or the main component of each soil of them. Sand, yes, contains of sand particles. Clay, it's a mixture. No, the mixture is the silt one. Clay, it consists of, or the main components, clay and silt. But the silt soil is a mixture of gravel, clay, sand, and silt. The sand, really humus. Clay, small amount of humus. But the silt, more humus. We will compare between them according to the color. Let's say again that this picture. We can observe now the sand soil, its color is yellow. The silt, the color of the silt soil is gray. The clay soil, its color is dark black. Okay? According to the size of the particles of each one of them. The sand, its particles has a large size. The clay contains small size of particles. But silt, it has a medium. Okay, according size. If I ask you arrange the soil, types of soil, ascending according to the size of particles. You know ascending? Yes, from the smallest to the biggest. So which one is the smallest one? Yes, it's the clay. Clay, it's the smallest one, has particles. Then you have the silt. Yes, right, it's medium. Then we have sand. It's a large particles. A new point. We'll compare between them according to compactness. According to compactness, we can observe that the compactness of the sand soil, it is weak compactness. Because its particles has a large particles. So will be a distance or space between its particles. So its compactness will be weak. But the clay soil, due to its particles, its small size, so it will be high compacted. The silt soil, normally it's medium. It's not high compacted or not weak compacted. It's medium. According to aeration. Aeration, that's depend on the compactness. So, the sand soil, it's compact, or its compactness, weak compactness. So it will be good aeration. The clay soil, it's a high compacted. So its particles be very close to each other. So it will be poor aeration. The silt soil between the sand and the clay, it will be medium aeration. Drainage water. What do you mean drainage of water? It allows the water pass through its particles. So sand soil, it's good aeration. That means space between its particles. So the water will pass fast between its particles. In the opposite side, we can find the clay. Clay, it's a high compactness. It's aeration poor. So drainage of water will be slow. They find difficult to pass the water between its particles. As usual, the silt it be medium between them. Go to retaining water. Retaining water, the sand the soil less, but the clay is more retaining water. Silt soil is medium. The fertility. What is the fertility? Fertility, that means it's soil suitable for cultivation or not. Its ability for cultivation. We can find that the sand soil less fertile. Less fertile. Who can tell me why? What do you think? Why the sand soil is less fertile? Yeah, I heard one of you said, yeah, mister, because it contains rarely humus. You are right. Excellent. Due to it contains a rarely amount of humus, so it will be less fertile. The clay soil, according to fertility, it will be fertile. So why? Because a small amount of humus. Silt soil, finally, it's the highly fertile, or it is the best one for cultivation. But why it's the best one? Who can tell me? Yeah, right. It contains more humus. So we can conclude from that the amount of the humus affect and the ability of the soil for cultivation. Yes. Now, suitable plants in the sand soil, we can plant potatoes, sweet potatoes, peanuts, cactus, and olives. That's the suitable plants for cultivating the sand soil. The clay soil, we can plant in the clay soil rice, wheat, vegetables, sugar cane, and cotton. That's the plant suitable for cultivate in the clay soil. What about the silt? The silt soil, it's suitable for plant fruits. Yes, fruits as lemon, strawberry, and pomegranate. That's all the plants suitable for each soil of them. So, from all of that, conclude the best soil for cultivation. I give you 2 seconds to answer. Yeah, you can tell me, what's the best soil? Yes, I hear someone say, Mr. Silt soil. Why? Because it has more amount of humus. You're right. Now finish our lesson and thank you very much for your listening.